Yo, the 2024 NFL draft class for wide receivers, way better than I thought, right? So, of course, leading the charge, we have Brian Thomas with almost 1,300 receiving yards, Malik Neighbors with 1,200 receiving yards, Ladd McConkey with 1,149, Marvin Harrison with 885, Roma Dunze with 734, Xavier Worthy with 638, Keon Coleman with 556, Xavier Legette 497, Jalen Coker 478, Devon Veely 475, Jalen McMillan 461, and then Ricky Pearsall 461, and then Adonai Mitchell with 312. Some of those names on there, I'm honestly expecting to perform a lot better in this upcoming year, and there's potential. All those names, those guys could pop off in their second year. Make no mistake. Like, let's just go over them, dude. Brian Thomas Jr., he had 1,282 receiving yards this year. And let me tell you what, I didn't even realize just how good of a season he had. I mean, I had a family member that traded Brian Thomas Jr., and I'm trying to forget who they traded Brian Thomas Jr. with. It was two of my family members. The one that traded Brian Thomas Jr. away thought that he was getting better end of the stick. He didn't. He lost the trade. Brian Thomas Jr. went off this year. I remember watching games with Jacksonville. I was like, bro, who is this dude? Oh, come to remember, it's another star. You guessed it, LSU wide receiver. Because they're all stars there, right? Like, Brian Thomas Jr. had such a good year, man. And then you flip to his teammate, Malik Neighbors. Where was he from? You guessed it, LSU. One of the powerhouse college football teams for just pumping out just excellent, elite talent at the wide receiver position. Malik Neighbors went off, and you could say that, honestly, he should have had just as good as a season as Brian Thomas Jr. I mean, they're only a little bit off. They're pretty close. 1,204 for Malik, 1,282 for Brian Thomas. There were times when they just weren't getting Malik the ball. So just the fact that Malik had the season he had, incredible. Two wide receivers who are just incredible off the snap. You know what I mean? So much potential there. Ladd McConkey. I didn't know much about Ladd McConkey. I'm not going to be one of those people that's like, oh yeah, I knew him. No, I didn't really know Ladd in college. Dude, 1149. Justin Herbert just found himself an absolute animal. An animal. And Ladd McConkey, he's not the biggest wide receiver. He's more on the smaller end of wide receivers. But that kid, whew, I mean, just his size, honestly, and the way he moves his route running, it reminds me of Hunter Renfrow. Like a young Hunter Renfrow. He's that good, dude. And so we go from Ladd McConkey, we go to Marvin Harrison Jr. And Marvin Harrison Jr., very frustrating for me to watch his rookie year. I mean, it was kind of like Malik in a way, but it was worse. Marvin Harrison having 885. He came into this draft as, you know, there were some people saying Malik, there were some people saying Marvin Harrison Jr. I'm still a massive Marvin Harrison Jr. fan, and they just need to find ways to get him the ball because, like those other top dudes, he could be putting up the same numbers, if not more. He's an elite talent like those guys, and I'm excited what Arizona's going to do with him. Kyler needs to figure it out. Kyler just needs to throw him up the ball. You know, they used to have D-Hop, and you see a couple plays. We saw a couple Hail Mary plays where Kyler would just throw it up. I'm not saying he just needs to just throw it up all the time for, you know, Marvin Harrison. But I'm like, bro, get it in Marv's area. He's a big wide receiver. He'll get the ball, man. And so we go to Rome Odunze. Rome, I've said it in the past. I've watched so many Chicago Bears games. He should have had such a great season. He should have had, but we all know how it worked out, right? Coaching staff was a complete mess. You know, there were times that Caleb struggled. I don't think he struggled like people say that he struggles, but hey, the rest of the offense suffered, and Rome was part of that. So I'm expecting Rome to be on the uppity up. Like, that dude has mad potential, and he's a big wide receiver too. He's a big wide receiver. Just throw it up for the mans, just like Marv. Then you got Xavier Worthy. I know things were messy from a wide receiver standpoint with Kansas City. You know, and they got other wide receivers possibly coming back. But I don't know. I really like Xavier Worthy. I really do like Xavier Worthy. The ways they were using him, I just think it just kind of went to the way KC was playing offenses last year. Their offense just wasn't the best. It just wasn't. But Xavier Worthy showed signs. And let me tell you what. I remember in this Super Bowl when Patrick Mahomes threw that bomb to him. Bomb when they were getting blown out. I feel like that didn't really get talked about enough. That was an incredible pass, first of all. Second of all, Xavier Worthy torched that secondary at that point. He torched my DBs on the birds, bro. So Xavier Worthy, I love the speed, and I think there's something there. I'm not going to say he's Tyreek Hill, but there's things basically stating like, hey, I've seen stats that compare Tyreek Hill's rookie year to Xavier Worthy. So, hey, you just never know. You never know, man. Then you got Keon Coleman. Keon Coleman had a solid season. It was kind of weird. It was kind of weird with Buffalo's offense and just how they used him. And I know that Keon Coleman, like, he had like a dropping problem. I watched a couple games. He dropped the ball. He needs to obviously get better with that. But there were signs. There were signs that it was like, okay, well, Josh Allen does possibly have a really good wide receiver in Keon Coleman. So I'm expecting Keon to get north of 750. Hopefully he gets hopefully he gets north of 1,000. That'd be great for Buffalo's offense. It'd be great. And then we got Xavier Legette. Xavier Legette, he's another wide receiver. He showed signs, and it just goes to basically what we saw in Carolina. Carolina struggled on offense until, what was it? We get into like 3 quarters, a little bit past halfway of the season. Bryce Young starts to figure it out. He's starting to just dissect defenses. And Xavier Legette was part of that. And Xavier Legette, dude, he's a guy on this list who's lower, but I could also see him with those other wide receivers getting 1,200 yards. It wouldn't shock me in the slightest. Dude's a smooth operator. He's a smooth operator, man. Then Jalen Coker. Jalen Coker was also pretty solid, and I've been seeing some media outlets in Carolina just kind of talk about him at practice and talk about him, through training camp. And he sounds like a guy that's kind of underrated and a guy that people really aren't talking about, dude. So then you got him and Jalen McMillan. Jalen McMillan's name popped off a lot. I would see people talk about him a fair amount. With Tampa, you got Chris Godwin, you got Mike Evans, and now they just added Emeka and I'm hype, and I do think that Emeka is going to be a guy in Tampa, but I also think that McMillan could be a guy because he was balling out. Like, whenever Baker threw him the ball, dude was catching that thing. He was catching it. I really like Jalen McMillan. He's a really good wide receiver. And then that leads us to Ricky Pearsall. Ricky Pearsall, we saw, he had the gunshot. So glad he's okay. Came back. Slow start for him. It was kind of a pretty rough season, we all know, for San Francisco. But at the back end of the season, Ricky Pearsall showed that he's really good. Like, he's a really good wide receiver. If you get him on motion, he may not be the best, like, off a strong press. But if you get him in motion and moving, he's good. Like, he knows how to get separation off of that motion. Maybe not right off the snap, like I said, but he shows signs, and he's aggressive at the point of the catch. That's something that I really appreciate about Ricky Pearsall. And then Adonai Mitchell. I really like Adonai Mitchell. The thing with Adonai Mitchell is that you just didn't really get to see a lot just because of what was happening with Indianapolis in their quarterback situation. We just didn't get to see a lot, but it wouldn't shock me if he's also, like, he has all the potential in the world. It wouldn't shock me if we see north of, like, I'd say like 700 receiving yards from Mitchell. With Daniel Jones, and who knows, Daniel Jones with with Shane Steichen, that passing offense could get crazy for all I know. Daniel Jones is just a mystery. So along with that mystery, Mitchell is also a little bit of a mystery, but at the same time, like I said, I could see him north of 700. We just don't know. Also, not going to forget, but I was cruising through the list and I almost forgot Devon Bailey. Devon Bailey, dude, every time I'd watch Broncos games, dude, Bo Nix was always throwing him first downs. I was like, where did this kid come from? Like, where did he come from? Every time I was watching a Broncos game, Bo Nix would be throwing him a dime. Bailey would be getting open. I was like, he's a pretty big wide receiver. And I was like, he's getting open. He's making some clutch catches, you know? He was like a go-to guy for Bo Nix. And I'm excited. I'm very excited in that situation because Bo Nix is I think Bo Nix is so good. Like, I can't over-exaggerate this. But with Devon Bailey, I'm like, okay, new wide receiver I'm obviously going to be paying attention to every week or looking up highlights of him every single week. He's just another guy from this draft class, man. But anyways, guys, you just let me know. Drop in the comments. Let me know. Do you think that this 2024 NFL draft class of wide receivers has so much more meat on the bone left? I really do. Like, I just feel like there's so much more potential. And those top guys, I feel like there's other dudes that could get up into that conversation. I'm not saying over those dudes, but they can get up there with the rest of those dudes and have some really nice yards with receiving yards and yards per completion and get those tutties up. But anyways, you guys let me know. Yeah, I'm excited about this class. I can't wait for this season just to watch these dudes. But anyways, guys, drop a like and be sure to subscribe to your boy because all we do here is talk football and come vibe with the homie. Anyways, guys, I'm outie. Appreciate you watching. I'll catch you on the next one. Deuces.
You good? Yeah, let's go.